Hi, and welcome to another episode of Lounging with Leonie. I am your host, Leonie, and today I am extra tired, so I've got a can of Sprite. I'm going to pop that open. Sprite, please sponsor me. Today's episode, I have no idea what we're going to talk about. So, big brother, throw some suggestions.
So you've just came back from a retreat.
I did. I took a couple of days out to just go and relax and do nothing because I felt like I needed a little break from life. And now I'm back.
Were you still connected to the World Wide Web?
Of course. I mean, unless I'm somewhere where there's absolutely like no connection, I'm always going to still be connected.
Why don't you try to switch off all your networks?
Because it gets lonely, actually.
How many days did you went away?
So I was gone for 2 nights and I went up to a really nice spot near Lake Macquarie. Actually, you know what? In retrospect, it wasn't that great of an Airbnb.
Why?
So it was like near the creek, which connects to Lake Macquarie. And because the weather has been like super rainy and floody, like I was worried that I was gonna like get flooded in and like die. So it was near the creek and it was kind of like and it was next to like a railway as well. So because that area has a lot of like freight trains and coal and industrial kind of places, every hour or so there'll be just like a big humongous rumbling noise, and that was like a really long train going through. So it wasn't like super relaxing. It was like not really like peaceful and nature-esque.
How much was it?
It was like $200 for 2 nights. But yeah, I thought it was important to have a mental health break because, sometimes life can get pretty stressful. And also I wanted some time to work on this book that I've been writing for a couple of years now.
What is the book?
What is the book? It's just a collection of thoughts that I've had since 2017. At the moment, the working title is Love, Loss and Loneliness in the 20s. Sounds deep, right? It's not really that deep. It was just like I had a Google document where I started just writing down some thoughts that I had ever since 2017, and then it just became this massive 50-page document full of my inner thoughts. And I thought, it would be a waste to let all of these thoughts not go anywhere. So I wanted to compile it into a more digestible form. And hopefully I want to publish that sometime this year.
Wow, that's very ambitious.
Is it?
I mean, you've got quite a lot on. So obviously have you taken a break? Should be able to reset everything?
Yeah, to be completely honest, I feel like I've lost a lot of motivation this year. I don't know.
Do you feel like it's just a wave?
Maybe it is a wave. I think also just when you do too much and then it becomes overwhelming and then nothing really takes off or goes into the direction that you want it to go, and then you kind of start questioning, oh, is it even worth doing anything at all?
Sometimes I think it's important to reflect on the achievement you've done, because otherwise we tend to forget how far we've come.
That's true. But what have I achieved?
I think that's usually an overachiever who don't look back at their own achievements.
Yeah. I mean, this whole podcast thing, I feel very glad that I did it, and I feel like it's an achievement, but I don't think it's I'm getting to the point where it's but is it worth it? You know what I mean?
Well, what do you want to get out of it? That was the original goal you set, right? I mean,
Yes.
for anything to succeed, it takes time and grind and grind and grind, and hopefully you get something to show for.
Yeah, well, I guess initially it was just that I wanted to become better at speaking and not having to overthink too much and just be able to have conversations with people.
So do you feel like you're slowly getting there with that goal?
I think so, but at the same time, I feel like there is also something stopping me from, like, especially when it comes to trying to find guests and stuff. I think there is a barrier in me in that I'm only asking people who I would feel comfortable talking with, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
And like, I'm not proactively reaching out to people that I would love to talk to, because there is a barrier and a fear that, like, once I invite them and then everything will still go to shit, if that makes sense.
Where do you think that stems from?
Like, maybe a fear where it's like, oh, why would they want to come onto my podcast anyway? Like, what did they have to gain from it? And also, like, what's the point?
Maybe you're just too critical of yourself.
Maybe. And I have noticed, like the views on my podcasts are getting less and less. So that's also like, oh, well, what's the point if nobody really cares about watching or listening?
Maybe the goal isn't about who's watching, but the goal you originally set was to build yourself up.
Yeah. But it's really hard to build yourself up when you don't get, like, when you see the views decreasing, you know?
Well, I think it's also subject matter, who you have on as a guest list as well.
True.
But I think the priority should be you just trying to, hone in on your skill
Yeah.
in the way you communicate, what topic you want to discuss. I mean, the whole thing is just a progression of your own journey. You don't know the end result, but it's growth.
For sure. I mean, I think even thinking about why I started making videos in the first place ever since, I was younger, is just because I have a passion for documenting things in my life and then being able to go back and seeing what I used to do back in, like, I don't know, 2010 or whatever, and having that, like, being able to go back and reflect and see that, oh, that was how I thought, that was how I lived my life back then, and then look how far I've come now. So I feel like in that sense, continuing with this podcast and seeing my growth and then being able to also go back and watch earlier podcasts, I still think is very valuable. But yeah, I don't know what I would think is success for me.
I think maybe that's the problem, that everybody in their own mind is always constantly pursuing this invisible success that is unattainable. Success is perhaps where you've come rather than where you're going.
True. I just took the biggest gulp and it really hurts. Give me a second.
You're going to burp a lot through this podcast.
Have you seen that TikTok challenge where they drink a whole can of Sprite and then they try not to burp? TikTok's weird, man.
That sounds like a success.
Should I do that? I don't want to do that. But yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe it is like about looking at how far you've come rather than where you're going. But I feel like it's still good to look at where you're going, right?
I mean, what did you think about in the last 2 days when you're by yourself, aside from just keep scrolling through TikTok and watching more content, essentially nothing different?
Well, I worked on my book, which was what I wanted to do. That was my goal when I went away, because, I want to make something out of all of these things that I've been thinking for the past 5 years, because I feel like it would be a waste not to share my experiences and hopefully help somebody else out there. So that was my goal. And obviously that was intertwined with a lot of like scrolling through TikTok and watching BTS stuff. But then I also had the thought when I came back from my trip and after I had like worked on my book, I thought to myself, what's the point in writing this book? And then I had another fear there, which was like, no one's gonna care about reading this. If I do end up publishing it, nobody would want to buy it. And then I had a moment where I was like, then what's the point? Should I just forget about it? And I think that comes with like a lot of things that I do in my life creatively, like with this podcast, with YouTube, with writing, and anything like that. It's like I have a fear that no one's gonna like it, so why bother?
So, do you feel like your whole existence is to create stuff for other people?
I think my
Or is it more so you just want people to appreciate you?
I think it's like there's almost a fear that like I want to prove that I am something, if that makes sense. Oh, I don't know.
No, it makes absolute sense. We all want to be appreciated, loved, listened to, praised, right? It's obviously through our childhood
Yeah.
that most, I think people like us are looking for that, earning for that, constantly. What's that word I'm trying to find? It's like a feedback loop, you know? So it's a bit like you're looking for that either in relationships.
Validation.
That's it, validation, right?
You're looking for validation, yeah.
So essentially, your success determines on the validation of others,
Yeah.
rather than you going, screw the validation, I need to validate myself. And that's hard to do.
Yeah.
So, what's the next journey?
Self-validation is the next journey, perhaps.
Maybe perhaps that's your conversation within yourself, because everything you do, every project you do, it's really about you, right? You're putting it yourself out there and then hoping for a validation. I mean, that's quite common. People do that all the time. We could also have a detrimental effect on our own well-being,
Yeah, for sure.
our relationships, our individual worth, right?
Yeah.
So then maybe it's to explore the journey going, how do we change that? How do we shift our mindset? Especially for, I imagine most ethnic minority or people of immigrant descent are constantly looking for that validation.
Yeah,
Obviously, you can get validation through BTS.
that's true.
Their music is a form of healing and reflection. Art and music is very powerful. But it's difficult because just like you look in your numbers, you get not depressed, but
Invalidated.
deterred, right?
Yeah, deterred. Yeah.
So it's not just numbers of views. This is just life, right? Numbers of like. How much money did I make? What's my wealth? Did the share market go up? Everything in our life has a validation dot point. It's all come down to what we perceive as achievement.
Yeah. Like, I know a lot of people seek validation, right? But I think what they do is probably seek validation else. Like, for me, it's like, why do I have to get validation from the public when probably a better way of seeking validation is through like friends and family? Like, why do numbers matter so much?
I think the other thing I'm, realizing, obviously with my personal life and my story, is that like you said, why does it matter in everything we do, in how we approach things? There's always a KPI,
Yeah.
right? Whether that's your relationship KPI, your work KPI, your materialistic KPIs, friends KPI. I mean, there's getting validation from friends. It's one thing, but how do you find that validation within yourself? But that's also shaped by our upbringing too.
So then how do we shift that mentality, that perspective that we have?
Maybe the goal is to look for, the idea of pursuit of happiness. But then how do we define happiness? Because if you're content on a daily basis, like you can't wait to wake up in the morning,
Yeah.
do your thing, even though if it's hard work or, difficult, how do you become excited about each day?
Yeah.
Because, when our mums had the issue with her immigration,
Oh, yeah.
it really dawned on me about how fragile life is. If mum's not there, who's going to look after all the paperwork, all the legality, right? Or the other way around. Like, who's got the heart and energy and the mindset and the strength to dig things up, get things sorted? And I've been listening to this podcast recently talking about discipline, right? Like discipline and hard work. But then how do you change your mind to make it that it's enjoyable? Just like today, you came in and you go, do we have to do this?
Yeah.
Right?
I was not feeling it at all.
Or, just a minor thing. Like sometimes I understand those mundane daily things that you just go, I don't feel like doing it. But then it perpetuate, right? Like you become a procrastinator and it just clogging up. And it gets more. Oh, that's right. The podcast was talking about health, right? This guy was overweight, and he goes, "How do I do it? How do I change it?" Usually, people who's battling with their weight will sizzle up and down. Then how do you commit to that discipline? Weight is an example because that means you have to, So his task is, I keep it simple. I need to do 10,000 plus step every day. It doesn't matter, even if it means like I will go out and walk the dog or whatever.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is to track his diet and just having that discipline. I feel our generation or even the younger generation are so complacent. And also the instant gratification, right?
Yeah.
Just like you going, well, I've just started this podcast. I expect 1,000 views, 10,000 views.
Yeah.
And in a saturated market of podcasting and vlogging, it's getting harder and harder. Like Joe Rogan took 15 years to get to where he is.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. Like having the patience to like wait it out and seeing the fruits of all your hard work and everything. But yeah, like I came in today. I was actually supposed to have a guest on today, but she canceled because she was feeling sick. And then it was like, oh, should I do one by myself? And it was like, I don't really feel like in the mood. And then I had a moment before I came. I was going to like text you and be like, oh, should we just postpone it to another day? But then I was like, oh, you know what? I have to just show up because, once you show up, it kind of gets the ball rolling at least.
You know what? That's a very good message.
Yeah.
Sometimes, even if you don't feel like it or not in the mindset, the fact that you just show up and do it.
Yeah.
Like just like that when our mom had that issue, I just go, you know what? I'll just show up and then try to sort her problems.
And then it just makes more problems.
The truth is like, it's one of those problems that you just in your heart and gut just feel sick.
Yeah.
And you go, I don't want to do it. Like if you feel like there's no solution, there's no outcome. That's the worst space to be in. So that's why when I look at you and go, you're in that perfect grass is greener for me, because you have no responsibility in your life. You've got time to achieve everything you want to, and then what's the word? Like, let it simmer and enjoy the every little flavor.
Yeah.
What's the rush? You know what I mean? Like, rush as in like, why do you want to rush for success rather than, rush just to do it, just to turn up? Then that's the rush.
You know what? When you were just saying that, I thought about BTS and their success story and how they started off from basically nothing, from a small agency, and they grinded for so many years. They trained for so many years until their debut. And even when they debuted, even when they started, their journey, everyone hated them. They weren't getting any success. And it took them like years to get to where they are now.
That's every single amazing success stories
Yeah.
of athletes and people who does amazing things, right?
But I think what's different now is that because we live on this social media world where everything is instant, you only need to have like one lucky video to go viral and then you're successful. And then it's kind of like, oh, why do some people have to
I
grind
think
and
it's a
work
yes
so
and no.
hard?
I think it's a yes and no. I mean, those stories does pop out quite quickly,
Yeah.
but overall, I would say the majority of people who grind on YouTube takes a long time.
Yeah.
Right? Like most of the YouTubers I follow that I admire, like MKBHD, their first video, the guy was 12 years old reviewing a product. And
Yeah.
it took him that long to get to the number. Obviously, you polish your craft. If this is the space you want to play in, then you contribute more time and energy into it, right?
Yeah.
And then you become obsessive about it. If I give you two stones and I say, can you grind them until they become powder? Most people will just go, nah, let me find the easiest way.
Yeah.
I don't think most people have the patience to grind it.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. Like BTS is an amazing story. Every time I watch their story, it kind of like gets motivated, inspired. Not necessarily just BTS. Like even, I don't know if you're into basketball, like Michael Jordan's story.
Mm.
Like he got rejected a few times to play in the NBA, and then he just trained. He's always the first on the court and last to leave, and that's a mark of champions, right?
Yeah.
Or to achieve success. The question is that what you want to do?
This is the thing. I feel like there are so many things that I want to do in my life. I feel like it's important to just focus on one thing and stick it out to see where that lands, instead of being like sticking your fingers in all these pies and then not achieving anything
I
with them
totally
all.
agree with that. I mean, first of all, you got to look at what your capabilities are,
Yeah.
right? So what are you capable of? Because a lot of people would try to shoot further than what they can actually do.
Yeah.
That takes time, right? So my metaphor, this is my metaphor, and I've always shared this with people. It's like, you just imagine we want to get to the top of a mountain, right?
Mm.
That's the first thing you want to do. But every time we get halfway or a little bit halfway, the routes become difficult, and we're like, oh, nah, look at the next mountain. It looks much easier.
Yeah.
Then you come down, you go to the next one, you do the same thing again. If you keep doing that, like you said, you're not focusing on one mountain to climb, you'll never get to the top.
Yeah.
Rather, instead, the principle is, once you finish your first mountain, you can see the routes for the other mountains, right? Because you're on the top peak now. That's why a lot of successful people, makes it easier for them to try to achieve another goal.
Yeah, because they've already succeeded in one goal.
Correct,
Yeah. And they
So-
know what it takes to get to that goal as well.
Yeah. So I think this is a good, review as a brother to you, thinking about where you are in life. Obviously, the footsteps that I've taken, I feel like, they're not the brightest path. But in looking at what you try to do, maybe that's what it is to set a goal and try to climb that one mountain once. Because you do have a lot of goals,
Yes.
like publishing a book and doing that and doing that.
I mean, the other thing that I have been thinking about is like, would I be satisfied in giving all of this up, and just living life, doing my 9 to 5 job, and then just, seeing friends, doing my hobbies, and that's it. Like, no more of this.
I think it's tough because we only get one chance in life. When people say you look back and you wish you'd done it,
Yeah.
that's really true. That is really true. I mean, it's hard when you're young. You're turning 30. You still got half of your life to live.
Mm.
Obviously, I'm getting closer. And the more it gets closer, and the more I think about our family, our parents, the elderly, I'm looking back going, damn it, I wish, right?
Yeah.
On hindsight.
So the moral of the story is just do it.
I think at least you give it a go with an open mind that as long as you can validate it yourself, not others.
I definitely need some form of expression in terms of like expressing my creativity and to express who I am as a person, and whether that is through like making podcasts or videos or writing. Like, I feel like I need that. But then the downside to that is like obviously seeking validation from my creativity. Like I wish I could just be able to create things and not have external people have to validate
Maybe
me.
you just need to limit to the amount of people that you need validation from.
Yeah.
That might simplify it, right?
Yeah.
You know, like you validate my work, I'll be like, oh, that's cool. If Leonie likes it, I have high regards for her.
Yeah.
Vice versa, you know?
That's true. Well, I think like quality validation rather than quantity validation.
Yeah, because you can't satisfy and please everyone.
Yeah, it was interesting because while I was away, I messaged the guy that I've been dating, and I
Who shall
asked
be
him
unnamed
for now. What was there?
for now.
Um,
Still in probation period.
he's been great. He's been very like what's the word? Secure.
That's good. Well, you know, still early days.
Yeah, I asked him if he was happy, and then his like answer surprised me, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm pretty happy." And his happiness stems from just being able to create the things that he wants to create, like doing his photography and animation stuff. And then I was like, huh, like I wish I could also be like that. Like, for me, it's like my happiness comes from other people's validation of my creativity.
Do you know, I watched recently a YouTube video that actually made me tear up so much. I don't know if you heard of him, Linus Tech Tips.
No.
So they're very popular PC channels, 10 plus million subscribers, etc. And it's a story about one of the editor who is now leaving Linus Tech Tips group. Anyway, so this editor say thank you to Linus for hiring him, and then gave him a big present, a massive present. And the present, when they opened it up, was rolls and rolls of toilet paper.
Oh.
And he was sharing the story like, before he got the job, he was working at like Subway for $500 a month, and his rent was $400. So he has to decide to eat or use toilet paper.
Oh my God.
You know, so for years and years, since he was working for Linus, when the very beginning,
Yeah.
he was stealing the toilet paper from the office.
Ah.
You know, and he obviously shared like a lot of emotions about because of the work and where he's achieved to where it is. It made me realizing like, oh my gosh, there's little simple things in life.
Yeah.
We take it for granted.
Yeah.
But if you get a chance, check it out. It's really beautiful.
That sounds, yeah.
Put that in perspective, for me, it's like we have a roof over our heads. Time is short. You know,
Well,
go out and do it.
That's another thing. Like, I feel like I'm definitely super privileged in that I don't have crazy responsibilities. I don't have bills to pay.
Do you find you can handle pressure well?
Can I handle pressure well?
This is something that I'm learning. I mean, for the last 10 years, obviously.
Yeah.
It's definitely challenged my mental toughness,
Yeah.
my ability to just overcome things or try to find things. Like every year, I think my business is going to blow up.
Yeah.
And then every year I find a way. And sometimes I said to the people around me, it's like, maybe that's the point, is to be constantly on the knife edge in order to feel alive, that you're pushing, you know, comfort. Oh, what's that word? Comfort is the biggest something.
Yeah. I know what you're trying to say.
Yeah. And maybe that's what I'm looking for in your journey.
The pressure?
Yeah, like how does my sister deal with pressure?
To be completely honest, I don't think I deal with pressure that well. Especially when it's like external pressure plus the pressure that I put on myself. I put pressure on myself, I think, when it comes to like everything that I do at work and with my hobbies. But then when I also have like external pressure, I think I kind of get overwhelmed and I get really grumpy and snappy. And then everything just kind of falls apart.
So does that happen a lot with your work? Or it's more so personal stuff?
Personal stuff.
Because I do find you extremely focused at work.
Oh, yeah.
Which is very admirable.
Yeah, okay, so you know how I had that year where I was like super depressed and I wanted to like die and everything, and I
Yeah.
would like call you up crying in tears. Um,
I hope not ever happen again.
like
Because that absolutely affected me too.
I'm sorry.
And then obviously the outcome, as
Yeah, I
you
know.
and I both know.
Yeah. Well, like the only thing in my life which I feel like I can always count to like be professional and focused on is my professional work. Like I feel like that is one thing in my life which I can 100% focus on when everything else in my life is falling apart. And I think it comes down to like the idea that I don't want to like disappoint or like ruin my reputation when it comes to my professional work.
You know, that's interesting because we tend to forget our own personal reputation
Yeah.
with the closest to us,
Yeah.
which is something that I've been contemplating as well. And then how do we then put that same effort
Into our
into,
personal.
yeah,
Yeah.
personal reputation?
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard. But then, like, the thing is, like, if I ruin my reputation at work, I have so much more. Like, it feels like I have so much more to lose.
No, that's because personally it's in closed door, right? It's
Yeah.
closed door. You know, and families are way more forgiving
Yeah.
than, the professional industry. Just look at Johnny Depp.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
But same mental approach should be applied, I think, to everything we do. But I don't think it's hard. I think it's because we weren't brought up that way.
Yeah.
We were left to our own devices.
But also, I remember there was like something dad said to me when I went to the mental hospital and I was like checked in there for a couple of days. And then I think he was like, oh, you're going to ruin your reputation at work because of this.
That's very Asian. That's the Asian culture. It's all about pride,
Yeah. And then
ego.
it was like, hello, your daughter is like on the verge of a mental breakdown. And all you can think about is her
I think
reputation
I
at
get it.
work.
Like I see it two scenarios. One is because we live in a society where two culture collides.
Mm.
It makes it difficult for either side to sort of comprehend the journey that we're going through. On one side, we're like, we should be more open-minded,
Mm-hmm.
more accepting of mental health. On the other side is mental health is a weakness.
Yeah.
How do we train it out of you?
Yeah.
All right. But I think that's when I'm obviously consume a lot of content about mental toughness and individual growth and stuff like that. And almost everything, it's almost very similar to the Asian culture way. It's that discipline. I think it also comes down to that we're very creative thinkers, right?
Yeah.
So we were brought up that way. So our mind wanders to different places.
Yeah.
And the problem is we can't connect that creativity with functionality or logic. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So what will happen is that creativity is powerful. That helps us write, create music, create art. We need that emotion, but it could also completely block us away from being normal or live our best, because we get depressed, we get emotional, sucked in.
Yeah.
Like you probably hear these stories a lot. It's like actors get depressed after their role, right? Because they're fully embraced and lived in that. I don't know whether that's training or awareness.
I think awareness is the first step.
Yeah.
Definitely.
But how do you then activate that awareness to make it functional now? Like think of a worst case scenario where you feel completely helpless, right? So there's two scenarios. One, from an outside perspective, as a brother, when you go through that situation, I feel like you've got nothing to worry about, right?
Yeah.
Because there's no practical difficulties, right? It's just internal difficulties.
Yeah. It's all emotional
Right.
and yeah.
But let's put a perspective. Let's say you have a financial trouble, you have kids that needs to be fed, you can't buy food, you're stuck in court, or I don't know, something that really gets you stuck,
Yeah.
and then there's no way out. You haven't yet encountered that, right?
No, everything has just been more like emotionally and personally. I mean, is it because I'm just too privileged that I have too much time to think about my existence
I mean,
on this earth?
I don't wanna pour fuel on you, but it's not about privilege. I think it's because you're stuck in your own mind.
Mm.
The word that comes up, I will use it sometimes for myself, is I become selfish
Mm-hmm.
rather than selfless.
Yeah.
But then become selfless can also get you taken advantage of as well,
Yeah.
right? So it's because we're stuck in our loop in our own mind, a movie in our own head, that we forget about the outside world.
It's about learning how to problem solve, I think.
Well, I think what you said before was absolutely the best approach, is just do it.
Just do it.
Like, you know what, I just gotta be there.
Yeah.
Right?
Don't become complacent.
Yeah, and then choose things that you need to do. You just do it. Like, okay, this week I gotta clean my bathroom.
Yeah.
Just get up and do it.
Well, I have that in me.
I know, and I think it's just consistency and routine.
And then there are days when it's just like, ugh.
Yeah, and then it will be months and months, and then I'll be like, wow, there's hair growing out of the bathroom. I was like, my God, the floor has hair.
Hey, that's like all girls, okay? Our hair just drops.
I know,
everywhere.
but I've taken this approach going, if you do a little bit each day, you never have to do one big one each month.
Yeah.
That applies to everything we do in life.
Yeah.
If you just chip away at it every little bit every day, and you
Yeah.
see the results.
Consistency.
Yeah, and it becomes a norm.
No, I know what you mean, because consistency. And I think it's the same thing with like any sports as well. I was thinking about climbing, how like I've taken a break from climbing because my middle finger is like screwed up. But I was thinking like the more you're consistent with your climbing, the better you get. But if you like take a break in the middle of it and then you come back, you kind of start at square one again. So yeah, you have to be consistent with the things you do if you want to improve.
Totally agree.
Yeah. Cool.
Well, it was a good episode
Was it?
to talk about, I mean, it sets up a journey,
Yeah.
sets up on conversation or with the people you want to bring in that relates to this content.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, is we just want to become better people. Hopefully,
That's
there's still
true.
a fucking planet for us to live in.
I know. What the heck?
With climate change and war
Seriously?
and geopolitics.
Yeah, everything is...
It's going to be an interesting year, depending on how the political arena shifts.
Yeah. Well, by the time this episode is out, I think we would already be living in it.
Okay, your prediction then?
Oh,
Elbow or ScoMo?
my prediction. My prediction is that there's definitely a lot more ScoMo supporters than we think there are. I think ScoMo.
Okay.
Let's see if I'm wrong.
With that, well,
Oh, I have ASMR. Wait. What's that Middle Eastern dessert called?
baklava.
Baklava. I got this while I was away, and there was just so much I didn't finish it all. This was made in Granville, Western Sydney.
Oh, yeah.
Represent. Delicious. You want some?
I'd love to have one.
Okay.
I'm starving.
I'll bring some out.
Where did you
Alright.
get them?
They sold it at Woolies,
Oh, wow.
but I think they're packaged by. It's called Abla's Pastries. Maybe I should start reaching out to people.
I think so. I think you should reach out to subject matters that relates to your conversation.
Yeah, I thought about reaching back out to my psychologist
That's not a bad idea.
and wondering if she would want to come on, because it's been a while since I've talked to her. The last
Get
time
a free session, huh?
The last time I talked to her, right, she said, "Oh, like, it seems like you're better now. You don't need me." And I was like, whoa. That was after I discovered BTS.
Oh, so you should encourage people with depression with BTS.
Yeah.
Subscribe. Your first priority is listen to BTS.
If you're depressed, just listen to BTS. Alright. Well, let me just finish this mouthful. Yeah, maybe. Should I reach out to her? See, there's just so much like fear and anxiety in reaching out to people. Like, what if she says no?
Then the world will end.
Boom! Explosion.
That's right. I mean, I think that's the thing. Even with me, I get hesitant to do things when it's like, oh, it's a bit overwhelming feeling, right?
Yeah.
I get it. But then when you do it, after we're like, oh, that was just so
Exactly.
hard.
Exactly. Thank you guys so much for watching. I thought this episode would like go nowhere, but it turned out pretty good, I think. Anyways, thank you, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye.
Hasta la vista. Bye, bye.